कल जमीन पर तो था, पूछोगे तो बताएगा वो पंछी। ये एक दायरे में सिमटने में और पूरी दुनिया को दायरा बनाने में बस इतना सा फर्क है। इतना कितना है? इतना है या इतना है? जो नापेगा वो जाने कि जहां धरती और आसमान मिलते हैं, नानपुर से दूर, अगर मगर शायद से दूर, वहां भी दोनों में फर्क बस इतना सा है। धरती और सातवें आसमान में फर्क बस इतना सा है। ये एक अंतर प्रेरणा है। ये हमारी, आपकी, हम सब की अंतर प्रेरणा है। एक कदम, एक छलांग, एक बाजी, एक गहरी सांस और एक ललकार खुली हवाओं में कि हाँ, मैं बना हूं उन फिजाओं के लिए, कि हाँ, मैं बना हूं उन ऊंचाइयों के लिए जो ऊंची तो बहुत है पर नामुमकिन भी नहीं, क्योंकि मुमकिन और नामुमकिन में बस इतना सा फर्क है। धूप छांव में फर्क बस इतना सा है। तो बस चलिए फ्रेंचाइज इंडिया के साथ ये फर्क मिटा देते हैं। फ्रेंचाइज इंडिया।
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this webinar of Business Opportunity Over Chai. Business Opportunity Over Chai is presented by the management of Franchise India with an aim to introduce you to the new business opportunity every day at 12 o'clock. In 2024, we continue to introduce you to new brands and new business opportunities. Today, we are going to introduce you to Australia's top education network. But before I introduce you about the brand, let me just run you through the Q&A process. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type your questions in the Q&A box. We'll take up all your questions post brand presentations. While we run you through the presentation and brand details, request you to keep sharing your queries into the Q&A box to make this session more interactive. Our today's brand is Spectrum Tuition. I invite Ms. Venus to introduce about the brand and also introduce the panelist to take things forward.
Hi, thank you so much, Sandeep, and good afternoon. Everyone who has joined us now would see this later. I want to thank you for your time, which you have given us. Before I introduce the brand of today, let me sort of set some context. So I'm Venus Parak, as Sandeep mentioned. I am CEO of Fran Global. So what we do is we work with international brands in all sectors, all across the world, and try and help them enter the Indian market, predominantly through franchising, and also the Middle East market, South Asian market. Currently, in last couple of years, Fran Global has made progress, and we have now partners and offices in over 11 countries. And so it's great to be here. And I think education is one sector. So when I actually started my journey in franchising in 2007, at that time, if you enter an Indian franchise show, almost, I would say 50% of brands were actually in education. So India actually has one of the largest market in franchising in education. And that's predominantly because, in 90s, our government decided that they cannot take the whole burden of education for their population. That's why they introduced the public-private partnership. And there's, of course, in India, we have the regulated and non-regulated education. As we know, preschools are non-regulated. K-12 is regulated. If after K-12, of course, engineering and a lot of colleges are regulated, but vocational is not as much regulated. So of course, it's a slightly, I would say, a very large spectrum. But I think what actually it comes down to that India has the highest concentration of children going for out of school private tuition classes. 95%. 95% of children in India go for private tuitions. And again, yes, it kind of somehow tells that, our system is not able to deliver the learning which the child needs to have. But then but that's the reality of the situation. 95%, 30 to 30, and this increases, of course, the expense. So generally, a Indian parent is expending 30% of their income on their child's education. 30%, one of the highest expenses. And of course, as we know, for especially for middle class and low middle class, the education is paramount for the child. And I think what we're coming to, especially after what has happened in the pandemic period, is education business really suffered a lot. 2 years, everything was shut down. And in these 2 years, so much has happened in what we call edtech and online and offline. But in the end, I think nobody can really say that the biggest and the most important thing is if the child actually is learning, if the child actually is able to translate whatever is taught to him into actual learning. And so nobody can deny that. And I think what our brand today, Spectrum Tuitions, has been doing in Australia, such a mature, it's a very different market in Australia because the education actually is taken care by the state. But still, there they I will through what it has been, what, 20 years for you?
23 years, yeah.
23 years. And I'm glad that Thue, who actually is the founder of Spectrum Tuition, is able to join us. She really has built this brand from ground up, has been working with children. And when we started talking, she did tell me that there are so many Indian origin children and parents who actually work with her, both as sort of clients and, of course, as franchisees who are. So she, of course, understands that cultural part of the child and the parent. And I'm very happy that, we have been able to work with Hui in last couple of months and really build a model for India. And again, if you want, especially in a market like India, where franchising, one, is not regulated, two, is not financed, right? Financing is so expensive that, or I would say 97% of the investment which happens in franchising is coming mostly from the house, from the family, right? So the highest scalable franchisees need to be consumption oriented. So there has to be huge consumption happening. So as I mentioned, 95% of children go for private tuition. Second, capital light. And that's why so 25 years back or 30 years back, there was a revolution which happened and franchising was a very big enabler, was preschools. We never, like, I never went to a preschool, right? So now, of course, preschool still is not regulated like K-12, but there are 70,000 preschools in India. Half of them are franchised. So when I joined this industry, there were at least 15 to 25 brands of preschools. Of course, that business has matured quite a bit, I have to say. So there's a huge second is, of course, capital light. Preschools were capital light businesses, 97 run by women entrepreneurs. And third, of course, is time oriented. So I think the today's brand and today's business really is kind of meets. We have the very big consumption. It's capital light, and I have my colleague Sakshi, who's part of our APAC team, who will actually share the financial model. And third is that if you put in your time in this, the system works. So I think this way, I can see that in India, we can at least have 1,000, at least 1,000 Spectrum Tuition franchisees who work for themselves and also create value for themselves and, of course, for the children and the parents and the families. So I think very happy to, launch today Spectrum Tuition when we have the founder, Ms. Thue, who has built this from ground. She will actually share with us her story, and then we'll share with you the model for India. This is a live session, so take advantage. As Sandeep mentioned, ask questions, whatever feedback you have. And if we cannot answer anything, we will, of course, can catch up with you one-on-one. But on that note, good evening for you, Putwe, right? It's what?
Afternoon.
Afternoon. Good afternoon
Four
for you.
o'clock.
4 o'clock. So it's just noon time here in India. I'm very happy to have you. Good to see you, and really look forward to hear from you and try and establish like what Spectrum Tuition is all about and what kind of partners we're looking for.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Venus, for that amazing introduction. And hello to everybody here. I'm just going to share my screen, and I'm really, really excited to be able to present this opportunity for you today. All right. All right. So here we are reimagining the education system in India with Spectrum Tuition. So I want you to imagine an education system where students can learn at their own challenge level, regardless of their age, where lessons are fun, dynamic, and developmentally appropriate, using a variety of teaching strategies. Classes are taught by knowledgeable and passionate educators, and students are assessed weekly, and regular reporting is provided to parents. So, are you the right fit for this type of opportunity? So we're looking for franchisees who have a bachelor's degree, want to be part of a growing sector to help students further their lives, are passionate about learning and teaching, and are high achievers and have a burning drive for success. So put your thumbs up if this sounds like you. Right. So what sets Spectrum Tuition apart is over the past 23 years, we've actually developed our own unique learning model. Okay, and I'm going to take you through this learning model, and the entire Spectrum system is comprised of these 5 simple steps. The very first step is we assess the students at where they're at, okay, and that is key. So we've got a couple of superheroes as well. So this is the Test Titan. So what we do is we assess every student across 3 year levels to pinpoint exactly which level they're at, and we then find out ways that we can improve their learning. And so it always starts at that free assessment. We then carve out time within the student's week to be successful with their Spectrum work. So this is called crafting your path, charting your personal journey. The third step is about adopting a growth mindset. So within our classes, we help students develop that growth mindset. The fourth step is about mastering consistency. So here we've got the math magician, okay, and we are elevating with regular practice. So Spectrum becomes a habit for students, right, because of the entire model that we have. And then the fifth step is about embracing growth. So you can't improve unless you learn from your mistakes. And then we go back to step 1, where we have a weekly quiz and we continually reassess students and we make any adjustments as necessary. So we don't have students slipping through the cracks, which is generally what happens in a lot of education systems around the world. And I've outlined this through a book that I've just recently released, which is available on Amazon. So if you wanted to check out what the current teaching philosophy is, you can get it for free just on Kindle, right? So if you want to scan your QR code and you're interested in this particular opportunity and you want to understand more about how it all came about, then I encourage you and I invite you to have a read of the book. So, is now a good time to invest in the education industry in India? So the education industry is a sector with one of the highest ROI percentages because, as Venus mentioned before, it is capital light. It's not, we don't have stock or anything like that, and it is a service business. Right, so worldwide, it's valued at 115.5 billion USD, and that was in 2023. And in India alone, it is currently valued at 25 billion USD. And India today may be at the peak of its demand for educational provision. So the school education system in India is the largest in the world. So there are 1.5 million schools. there are 8.7 million teachers, primary and secondary, and there are currently over 260 million school children. After COVID-19, this really affected schooling systems all around the world. So teachers reported that students were on average 2 months behind where they normally would have been. And this increased the school's expectations on teachers, causing a huge teacher shortage globally. And I think just in general, it just changed, after COVID, it just changed people's perception of what work should look like, right? So there was a huge shift in workforces and workplaces around the world, including schools. Hence, more and more students and parents are seeking help from tutoring. So currently, there are a few challenges that are facing the Indian school education system. So there is currently a severe shortage of professionally trained teachers. We are currently over 1 million teachers short in schools in India. And there are currently very high student-to-teacher ratios, but this has reduced from 40:1 to 35:1. But you can imagine that a lot of students are slipping through the cracks in a system like this. In terms of curriculum challenges, there is an overuse of rote learning in primary levels. Curricula is a lot more ambitious at the upper primary levels. So it starts, quite simple in primary levels, but then afterwards there will be huge achievement gaps as the years progress. And because of this, because of these really large achievement gaps, and because some students just are not being taught in the way that they naturally learn, okay, because not a lot of students will take well to learning through rote methods. Over 50% of enrolled students do not continue their education beyond upper primary level. And this is, this is something that we really want to address. But India's educational approach is evolving to include more child-centered practices, including, and so this came in around 2015, the National Curriculum Framework stated that they want to connect knowledge to life outside of school a little bit more. They want to ensure that learning shifts away from rote methods. Okay, so more student-centered learning approaches are being introduced into the schools. Enriching the curriculum so that enriching the curriculum so it goes beyond textbooks, and making examinations more flexible and integrating them with classroom life. So this is something that we already offer at Spectrum Tuition that is already built into our system itself. We have quizzes every single week just to make sure that we are building that muscle of doing tests from primary, and we take into consideration the 7 different ways that students learn every single week in our classes, in order to nurture an overriding identity informed by caring concerns within the democratic policy of the country. So you now have a unique opportunity to help transform the education system for millions of children in India. So in terms of our reputation, over the past couple of decades, we help our students to increase their confidence and master challenging concepts. So here, Subha has said, our daughter only recently started at Spectrum, but she has been loving the level teaching there. She's happier doing the work and learning lessons more than school. Highly recommend Spectrum for children who like academic challenges and thrive on learning, right? And students, because we're starting from the students' existing current challenge level, we are able to see outcomes very, very quickly. Okay, we also help students receive scholarships to their preferred schools. So Sherry has said, I'm incredibly proud to report that our daughter was offered a place at her preferred school. And I know we could not have gotten to this point without the Spectrum program, because we build up that test-taking muscle from very, very early on, and it just becomes a part of the lesson. It's not like a big step to be able to do tests and to do exams. And they also achieved their chosen career goal. So Carl has said, with my time spent at Spectrum Tuition, I was able to achieve an ATAR score of 99.5, and I now have the privilege of working as a doctor. So education systems are complex, and finding the right solution to meet educational needs is crucial. Many competitors are currently focusing on online learning. Okay, so we've got Byju's, which is huge in India. We've got Chegg, Unacademy, Vedantu, and we also have Kumon, which are in-person lessons. But this is your chance to pioneer a new system to India and foster connection and community in an increasingly digital era. So now we're going to talk about the actual business opportunity. So I'm going to pass this over now to Sakshi, who will give you more details around that.
Before I get Sakshi so Thuy, you mentioned that in India about it's 40-1. So what would be the ratio in Australia from a child to teacher?
In our schools is around 25-1.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And Spectrum Tuition addresses just STEM or maths, or you have what kind of topics you cover with regards to helping children for learning?
So English and maths is the foundation for absolutely everything. So when we focus on our English and maths, with our English, it focuses on history. With our maths, it focuses on the science. So,
Yes.
and we don't want to be too taxing on the students either. We want to make sure that we are just focusing on those foundational subjects. And then once the students are confident with those foundational subjects, they can then apply it to other areas.
I agree. And these two are major problem areas in India. One, kids cannot read. And second is comprehension. So I think, so these two, so English and mathematics. And what would be the child age? And so where would you, what's the like that, that spectrum of age where you engage with the child?
Yeah. So at the moment, we're looking at grade prep on our end, which are foundational years, like 5-year-olds, through to year 10 at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're looking at and in Australia, are you sort of working with children at schools or at home of the franchise partners or yours or at centers? How does it work?
So at centres at the moment, so we have a tuition centres that students will come to at designated times. So the classes run for 3 hours every single week. So students come to either morning sessions or afternoon sessions if it's on the weekend. Otherwise, it's just after school sessions. And and they go through the 1.5 hours for English, 1.5 hours for maths. And we're able to cover the entire curriculum within those 3 hours. So if students don't get it at school, then this is actually an alternative to school for some students.
Right. So, and in India, we are open for both center-based education as well as having our partners doing it from home. What do you think about that?
I would say that it works quite well with center-based tuition. When you say at home, well, our classes, we have up to 15 students at the moment within each class, and
Okay.
each class is streamed according to ability level. So it's quite easy for the tutors to be able to handle a class of up to 15 students, and the students do get that individualized attention. Yeah, that's what we're looking at the moment, that it would run from stores.
Yeah, so that's a differentiation for, I would say, majority and like majority of tuition providers are operating out of their home. And with Spectrum, we are looking at centers. I would imagine for cities like Mumbai, I think we can work out. You don't have to have a stationary center because the real estate is just horribly expensive. Doing something maybe out of what is available for those fixed hours. So I think that's something which we can work out. And what kind of, so in Australia, what kind of time investment a franchise you would do? Because see, we need educated entrepreneurs here who want to join this kind of a system. So in Australia, what kind of franchise partners you currently have and how much time they put in?
Yeah, so a lot of our franchise partners, they have full-time jobs in addition to doing this. They run other businesses, because the thing is, it is a system that we are offering, and and we do hire existing school sites at the moment. So we operate out of existing school sites, and that works well for weekends and after school. And so with our franchise partners, they usually spend their evenings doing customer service, weekends. That could work. There are others who do work full time in this business. So it really is up to individual franchisees. If you want that flexibility, then it's definitely there. But if you want to really make it into a proper business for yourself, then the option is also there.
Yeah, I think that's something where today I find, and we have the scenario in our markets where tremendous amount of educated professionals, women for sure, like very large amount of women and men as well, who either want to transition from a pure professional based income and life to let's say something where they can work for themselves. And of
Yeah.
course, these kind of profiles are not ideal for capital heavy investments. I think their biggest strength is their experience and their personalities and their profiles. And I think so we're looking for, so there's a huge amount of people in India who are very well educated and find themselves at juncture where they want to transition from a pure professional life to, let's say, a professional entrepreneur. We have large business in coaching and consulting business, and we are really attracting that kind of talent. I think here as well, we're looking for educated professionals who want to have a meaningful business, where you are working with children, helping them learn at that fundamental level, as Thoe mentioned. So very interesting. And Sakshi, who actually has a daughter, she has a young daughter, I think 2 years old now. And so she would actually, Sakshi is part of our Asia Pacific team. She actually engaged with Thoe and we got the brand, and she will share a certain summarization of the figures. This is a simple model, people. There's nothing complicated to it. There's a IP fee, and then there's royalty, and of course you get the whole system. Whatever Thue has kind of done in last 23 years, you get that. And Sakshi will share the figures, and we are happy to discuss it. Sakshi, welcome and good luck. I'm really happy that you are doing this.
Thank you, Venus, and good afternoon to everyone here. So, as discussed with Venus and Toy, that initially we'll be looking to have a center-based tuition. So, we have a financial model for that. I hope everyone can see my screen.
We can.
Yes. Okay. So what we have projected is that we will have a area specification, which would be for 1,000 square feet. The center would be for 1,000 square feet, which is 93 square meter. And this is specifically for metro cities and tier one cities. So we are just talking about the metro cities as of now, like Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Pune, so and so forth. To start with, the total project cost for one single unit would be 18 lakhs. Just see the left column, which will have currency in INR. So it will have 18 lakh, the cost of the project for single unit, right? And if we break down this total project cost, franchisee fees would be 4 lakhs INR. Setup cost would be 10 lakh 25,000. Teaching equipments and supplies will have 1 lakh. White goods, business permits, licensing would cost you 1,75,000. And advertisement and promotion, which is the marketing part, will cost you 1 lakh rupees. So this comes to be total 18 lakh, and for the single unit, right? And the revenue with what we are projecting is revenue per month would be 6 lakhs, and annual revenue would be 72 lakhs. The expenses which are included in this total single unit project is loyalty 10%, seeing the staff costs at 35%, administrative expenses 37%, and marketing expenses 2%. If we talk about the percentage of the expenses we are calculating. Going further, the ROI for the single unit, if you put it in a metro city or a tier 1 city, the EBITDA margin look like 16%. The ROI that we are projecting is 86%. And the payback period time for to have a break even is 20 months, right? And the contract period for this would be 5 years. This is for the single unit, right? And
Right.
and also, of course, single unit option is there, but we are looking for a area franchise partner in the cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai. And the total rollout plan that we have made is of 6 units, 6 franchise outlets for the brand, wherein direct unit would be, would be opened by the area master franchise, who can further sub-franchise 5 of the units, 5 of the tuition centers that we are looking for. And their total investment would be 24 lakhs, where 10 lakh would be the master franchise fee that the area master franchise has to give to the brand, right? And 14 lakh would be again the 1 unit cost to build that particular unit, particular center, right? And for the area master franchise, the ROI that we are seeing is, of course, less than 100%. And the payback period would be 23 months, right? And the contract period for the entire area master franchise would be 10 years to start with, right? And I mean, this is the summary that we have specifically for the metro and the tier 1 cities. We are not including any tier 2, tier 3 cities right now. We'll come back to you. If you have any questions related to this investment, kindly put across your questions in the chat bot. We'll be happy to answer that.
Thank you, Sakshi. So I think I will make this very simple for people who are listening. This is, so ultimately the franchise fee at a unit level is just 4 lakh rupees. Right. So, and then all the rest of the investment, and I think as Thue mentioned, you can even start doing this without setting up a center, but you can do these classes at the schools or at temporary locations. You can do this. So I think this is a very capital light. And then if you want to take let's say an area, and that so I'm in North India, so let's just take about Gurgaon, where you can easily have like 20-25 odd franchise partners. You're giving the brand 10 lakh rupees, correct? And then in that 10 lakh rupees, you're getting the master franchisee of that Gurgaon area. We'll discuss depending upon where you are from, and you can tell us in your Q&A box which cities you are from. 10 lakh rupees you pay, in that you at least start doing classes of your own. And then you develop a sub-franchise network where you will recover your investment, both operating and capital, because you get 50% of whatever the franchisee kind of is giving you. Biggest, of course, this business is about royalty. 10% royalty is a big amount. So I think I think this will be great, but we don't need typical investors. This business will only work if you're ready to put in your time. Otherwise, it would not work. So very simple, as I mentioned, 10 lakh rupees for specific city franchisees, correct? City
Yes.
franchisees. And where you start operating your own 1 unit, whether you have space or you want to start already kind of, working in schools, it is totally upon you, and we can discuss that with Thue. So actually, it is much more capital light than what Sakshi showed you. But it would only work if you are putting in your time. I hope that makes sense. Thue, anything to add there?
No, there are a few questions that I can see.
Sure. Yes. So Jayesh, let us know which city you're from. What is the bifurcation of revenue of 6 lakhs? So Jayesh, we have, so this is a summarization. Our financial consultant could not be here. She's stuck somewhere. So we have made this, we'll send you this detailed sheet, which we have done. And then we can have a discussion. For Kolkata, Monica, great. You are from Kolkata, of course, my belief is that this kind of a system, you can take off your sheet, Sakshi. This kind of system is going to work in metro tier 1 and tier 2 cities most, actually, because the exposure there is limited, the options there are limited, and bringing in a program like this is going to really make a difference in a child's life. So I would say, so look at, I think from an investment standpoint, look at either 4 lakhs if you're looking at unit, look at 10 lakhs. Rest is all variable. You're not paying it to the brand. You are sort of this only about what kind of infrastructure you want to build. Correct? So that's how you should look at it. Any other questions? Okay. Sakshi, can you take off your sheet, please? Just stop share. Just stop share. So you, Ronak, we have accounted for rent. We will share that with you when we send you the detailed sheet. What the per student fee is? Sakshi, do you know what is the student fees?
Oh. I have to check. Just give me a second.
And through it, I think there's a question, value-added question. How do you generate demand? So how do you do it? This is so you train your franchisee in terms of how to market, how to
Yeah,
kind of
definitely.
generate leads. How does that happen?
Yeah, so we would firstly have, you know, an offer where students, you know, because when a new center opens, and we'll have an offer, we'll run Facebook ads. Generate demand is through the free assessment, basically, you know, because parents really want to know where their child is at with their English and their maths. So we test the students over several year levels, and then we'll then place them into the classes accordingly. And generally with that, it works quite well. Yeah, and then we have our own process on how to solve the parent's problem, because basically that's all that we're doing. And what most businesses do, we're just solving the problem. What problem does the child have? It could be around maths in a particular year level. This is the class that they would be placed into, because our classes span from grade prep all the way up to year 10. So in terms of the curriculum, I had a look at the Indian curriculum, and it is very, very similar to, but that's the thing with curriculum systems around the world. They're all actually very, very similar, because developmentally, a student in year 3 in Australia is very similar to a year 3 student over in India in terms of their maths, right? And so that's why that free assessment at the start is so important, because we have areas here that are quite affluent in Australia, where we do the assessment and our students might be 2 years ahead of their level, whereas we have other franchises that franchise locations that are in sort of fairly low socioeconomic areas, but then we would place students 2 or 3 years below their level, right? And because we've got that weekly assessment, we then build them up so that they reach the level that they should really be at. And so, you know, there's an entire process around that. So regardless of whether it's Australia, whether it's India, whether it's Singapore, developmentally, you know, there's year 1 to year 10, which is a standard curriculum. How to look at all of those education systems. It's all very, very similar. And it's just about that assessment at the start. And that's how you generate demand. That's how you sell the programs. As long as you know, like what Venus is saying, as long as you put the time into learning how this all works, you'll be able to develop a program and a solution for every single scenario that comes your way.
I agree. So I think but so the hook for a parent is that assessment. Every parent would want to know what level their child is. So that's how you actually get the hook in, whether it is you are doing a BTL campaign or you're doing a digital campaign. You do that. That's how you get parents in, because they would want to know that where their child is, right? And that way you get from a cold to, let's say, a lead who has kind of done the assessment. And once they've done the assessment, you have some inputs from them, and then you start working with the parent. So that already is given to you by the brand. How would that assessment work? How would that marketing program work? And you, of course, as we mentioned, you need to put in some time to understand how to utilize maximum. See, and remember, the lead in this case would not be an expensive lead for you to. So if you do a campaign on Facebook, if you do a campaign on Instagram and these kind of digital platforms, it would not be a very expensive lead because it will be of the local area, right? So you need to champion that. And also you need to work with schools. You need to work with wherever, like where I live, there are like 7 large schools which are there. So if I take this, I will actually kind of really market myself around those schools. So there are, so you, and then the brand is going to give you that hook the way you need, you can get the parents to, for their child or their children to take the test. So that's how it is. The second other question, Thoe, is how is your system different than your competitors? I'm sure you have heard this before. Any thoughts on that? Thank you, Priyanka, for your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with a lot of the online, like we are in person, I feel like having that connection, that live connection with a tutor is so, so important. And that's what we can offer. We have a system where we're not just giving students pen and paper activities. We're not just doing rote learning. We actually teach the students in a way that they naturally learn. Even what I was presenting before, it had to be something very intentional that the National Curriculum Framework had to put out there, because the way that a lot of students are taught is through rote methods. That's just not how students learn. And that's why so many students will drop out, and why a lot of students are disengaged with learning, because they don't find learning fun. Whereas what we do is built into our system is strategies on how to address specific types of learners, right? So we'll have kinesthetic ways to learn. We'll start off every class with an engagement activity, which will engage the students with the learning. We'll make it fun for them. We might start off with some sort of, like, if we're, for instance, starting teaching students about adding fractions, right? What are the basic building blocks behind learning fractions? It's multiplication, right? It's division. So we'll start off with maybe a times table race, right? Or something like that, just to engage the students in the learning. And that's all built into the system. So you don't need to teach your tutors how to do it, because it's all there. It's, it's like we've got very detailed lesson plans, but it's all filled in. Whereas a lot of competitors, all they'll really provide the students with are the materials, right? And then it's really up to the teacher or the tutor who's standing in front of the student to be able to come up with an engaging way to teach this and to present this. But the problem is that individuals vary widely, whereas this is a system that we have refined over 20 years. At the end of every single term, we'll provide surveys. We always observe our tutors in class. We always make sure that we are refining how to make this class as engaging as possible for the students, because then they'll come back, right? That's the whole thing, because that's how you get the students to continue to want to attend class on the weekend. It's when they find that they're getting a lot out of it, and the parents will be really happy as well, because you don't have a child who is not wanting to be there. So yeah, that's what we've done. We have really made our courses very, very engaging. We also provide students with corresponding video lessons, right? So in addition to our in-person classes, students have access to corresponding video lessons. So if there's something from class that they may have missed out on, they can then refer back to the videos and complete that in order to get that understanding before the following week's class.
Sure. Thank you so much, Thue. There are a lot of questions. I'll try and kind of take them as much as possible. I think another important question is about the teachers. So how does it happen? Who actually teaches the children? I'm assuming in Australia, it is the franchisee themselves. In India, I think it would be like a teacher is brought in. So how do you solve that particular part of the business?
Yeah, so we actually hire top performing university students. We actually don't hire teachers,
Okay.
right? And then that way the pool is a lot wider,
Yeah.
because there are super clever people everywhere.
Yes.
And students will graduate from school, and we actually teach how to teach from the ground up, because that way, that's how we get consistency across all of our centres. Because if we rely on individuals to be able to, draw upon their own strategies to teach, then it varies. Whereas if we can teach someone who is already very passionate, very knowledgeable, very, willing to learn, then that's how we get consistent outcomes with our classes.
So I think just for everyone's clarity, because there are a lot of questions coming around this area, you would be, so the teachers here is not some star expensive teacher. You can hire young college going children or kids or people who speak, I guess, who are good in communication, lots of energy. The curriculum and the system takes care of most of it. They need to follow instruction. Did I get that correct, Thoe?
That is absolutely correct. So you can't actually teach someone how to be enthusiastic about learning, but
Yeah.
you can definitely teach someone how to teach the system, right? So somebody should already be passionate about learning. Somebody's already had a really positive experience through school, and they want to be able to impart that passion onto the next generation of students. So that's who we hire. We hire passionate people who have had very positive experiences at school, and then we then teach them how to teach according to our system.
Great. And how does that training happen? So that's all online, right? You will be able to provide that.
That's
That
correct.
because I'm assuming there's a higher churn to such kind of teachers. There will be new people coming in, and there are old people who are staying. So you teach them how to do this online.
That's correct.
Okay, so I think,
Correct.
Priyanka, I hope that kind of answers your question. Uh, and in this business, initially you need to be involved, okay? You would be involved in hiring these teachers who are college-going people, and they will be trained online by the brand. And once, of course, you go through the initial exercise, you will be able to kind of, figure this out very well. Everything looks like a rocket science initially. So I hope that kind of takes care of it. So we have taken off that this is a star teacher and my kid has to go to this. Here, the curriculum and the program is the star, and we can train anyone who kind of comes to the system who has basic viability to become and facilitate the lesson to the child. Okay.
That's
Sort of.
right, because it's not based on any one particular person, and I think that is the key, right? Because people will come and go. People's lives, there are lots of different variables that happen in a particular person. So you don't necessarily have to hire the star teacher. We actually produce all of them from the ground up, and those star employees then become and we've got an entire system on promotion as well, right? So that eventually your centres will run on their own, because we are hiring from the ground up and we're developing from the ground up.
Absolutely. So there's another question, Saurabh. Thank you, Saurabh Tiwari. Thank you so much for your question. Your question is, India is an unorganized market with tuition centers everywhere. How will you ensure franchisee making profit with your brand? Thue, I would also add something here, but you want to kind of comment on that question?
Yeah, I suppose it's just about reputation, right? So I mean,
Absolutely.
with everything else, if the student is getting the results from a particular brand, then the reputation will just grow. There was another question on the other side here, where parents will enroll in specific brands for a specific reason, preparing for competitive exams. Education more IB based. But more, no, our main focus is on preparing students for exams.
Correct.
But it doesn't happen. Students don't prepare. students don't perform well from rote methods and just by doing exams. Students perform well on exams because they have a deep understanding of the concepts, right?
Yes.
And if you start that from a very early age, then students just understand and they see connections, because that's the thing with a lot of exam items. It's that they draw upon a few different concepts at once. And so if you don't have a deep understanding of a particular concept, then it's going to be really difficult for you to answer item, you know, the second item in one of those multi-part questions, right? You need to answer the question, the first question correctly in order to answer the second question correctly. So if you don't have a deep understanding of the concepts, then you're not going to perform well in that exam. So that's why we focus on developing a love of learning, because the students who love learning do really well at school, and then they will then perform well on exams.
No, I think that's a very valid point. And anyways, I think, yeah, I mean, there is a competition in India, but that competition is because the overall fundamental system of education is not able to service or serve what needs to be served. The child is not, at the end of the day, able to understand the fundamentals. And once they understand the fundamentals, they will do well. They will do well in exams, let's say in grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and everything kind of gets built from there. Then they will do well in their grade 6, grade 7, and henceforth. So I think very simply I will tell is you need maybe the first 100 children to come in, take the classes and do well in India. Then there'll be a line at your door, because there are so many students, 200 million. See, so student is not a problem here. Competition, there are all kinds of competition, right? That's why parents want to send their children, although there are so many schools, to the branded ones. Here we are giving a branded experience, and a branded curriculum and a branded solution. And yes, initially competition, and I'm sorry to, I'm just kind of using certain Hindi words. Competition तो है ही हमारे पास, वो तो वही उसी की वजह से सब कुछ आ रहा है, consumption है, तभी तो हम, like, we are here. But the most important thing is that I mean, this is a capital light business. You don't need to worry about, okay, the content, the IP, the system, everything is done for you. You need to come in. It's a capital light business. Pay whatever fee needs to be paid and just get the children. And it's a high margin business, people. I do understand. I think there is, I still feel that the figures which we have mentioned, not the fee, but infrastructure figure, can be considerably brought down. You can even do these classes in schools, and maybe at, you don't have to open the center on day one. You can open it once actually you have more children. So this business is like, it's not like you open a shop only, then people will come. This business is driven by system, content, IP, and marketing. So once you learn that, and you get certain children, you can always open the center. So I mean, we can work this a number of ways. Again, this is not, I'm not asking 15, 50, 60, 70, 80 lakh, 1 crore rupees, 4 lakh rupees for single unit, 10 lakh rupees for city franchisee, 10% royalty. Simple, everything, all the IP training, everything is done by the brand. What you need to do is you need to put in your time, market, and bring children in. So it's a very simple model. And yes, we can talk about competition. Competition is always a good thing, but in education business, there are very few brands who are able to take care of the learning and help children the way they needs to be helped. Any other questions which are remaining? I think we have taken almost all the questions. Let me see. How many students do you need to break even?
One question, which is on what basis the schools would agree to take this program or even promote this when they themselves are educating children to the best of their ability? It's from Priyanka.
Well, as mentioned before, schools in India, you're down by about 1 million teachers, right? So there is a lot of opportunity there to be able to partner with certain schools. Ourselves, we partnered with a school here in Australia because this particular school, they wanted to raise their standardized test scores, right? So they asked us to run their after-school tutoring program, right? And so, we were able to do that. So there are a lot of opportunities out there to be able to partner with schools to help out because a lot of students, this is in education systems everywhere. Their needs are not being met in regular school systems. And so that's where organizations like Spectrum come in. It's because we do have a proven system on how to successfully achieve outcomes for students. It's all measurable. We have all of the materials and it's all good to go. It's all wrapped up in a box. You just need to deliver it.
Right. And see, already 95% of children are taking private tuitions. So that already is, and what is happening, I'm sorry, but although I don't have children myself, but I've seen this happening, that the teacher who is teaching you in the school is also doing the tuition classes. Right. So there is actually that's even a bigger problem. So what we are bringing is a solution which, yes, there are people in the market, but that's more the merrier. The way the education business industry is in India, and right now, I think what has, especially for middle class, the child now has become the center of everything because people are not having as many children as they used to. They're having either one or two children maximum. I'm talking about middle class here, right? And so it's very important for them. They don't mind spending that extra 100 rupees or 200 rupees or 500 rupees. Anyways, they are paying. 95% is not a joke. 95% kids go to private tuitions. 95%. So that way the market is already there. And what we are kind of doing, we are coming in with a very mature, intelligent, proven solution. 23 years in a market like Australia, which is considered at the top education market after, I would say, the Northern European market like Sweden and Finland. I think Australia is, I would say, in the top 10. So there, we are working with children. And so India, of course, is something which is very lucrative and needed. So again, simple business, unit franchisee, 4 lakh rupee franchise fees, 10% royalties you pay to the brand. We are open for that. You might or might not open the center. We can have a discussion depending upon where you're located. Second is you become a city master franchise, 10 lakh rupee franchise fees. You set up your, at least operate one sort of franchise yourself, and then sub-franchise 50% revenue share. Very lucrative business-wise, capital light in an industry which is 40% of the overall tuition industry in the world is India. So very, so the markers are very interesting, but yes, see, just like everything in life, this is all about you, where you're coming from. And if this is the right opportunity for you, and of course, from the brand side, you are the right partner. So it has to make sense from both the sides. And yeah, I think Thue, we have just kind of touched the top of the hour. Anything before we go? I really want to thank you for your patience and time today.
Thank you. There was just one more question here where Ranuk has asked, what do we do during the mornings and how do you ensure revenue in morning hours on weekdays? I would suggest that time is spent in marketing, customer service activities, because, recruitment, those types of activities, which are so important. It's not just about getting the students in. That's about when you go out there and you develop the relationships with schools, right? With making sure that you're doing those marketing activities in your local area in order to fill those spaces. Because if you don't do the customer service, you don't do the marketing, then you're not filling that bucket. So that's what you would do during that time.
Like any business, there are rush hour. In this business, there are non-rush hours, and you accordingly manage. And again, as I mentioned, I think I'm taking the liberty that if the right profile comes to us, we are even open that you don't open a center and you actually start doing this by maybe having students after school in the school premises. We can have that as well, where you kind of get to test this. and where your exposure to investment will be the franchise fees and the royalty which you'll pay on sales. But yes, marketing and everything. So again, this, as Thue mentioned, this is a service business. Ultimately it's about people. And if you get this, we get you, then of course anything is possible. The investment, anyways, I think we have shared, Thue has been very kind. Generally, brands would ask for a very high individual franchise fee, master franchise. But Thue, being an educator and being from, like, she wants that maximum number of children in India kind of really get empowered and get this and become better students, because it will help them throughout their lives. So that way we have really made this a low cost franchise model. Yes, it would not be as low cost as, let's say, the mom and pops or many other local brands, because we want to retain that quality, right? But here it is. So thank you so much. I think this was a great session. In education in India is such a hot topic, and every parent, everyone is sort of invested into this particular subject, and everyone is trying to kind of figure this out. So yes, we would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for your questions. They were very, very interesting questions. If you so Sakshi, if you can put in your number.
Yes.
I put in my number. And Sandeep, how do they reach out to if they have any questions and if they want to know more? Back to you,
Uh,
Sandeep.
so what we can do is for one-to-one discussion, and if they want to write back, we have a hotline and we have email IDs where they can they can reach out to us. So I'm putting this on our chat box. So for one-to-one discussion, please connect our hotline, and you can write to us at feedback@franchiseindia.in. That's the way to connect. And as I have already seen that Venus has put her number, and Sakshi as well. So please feel free to reach out to us so that we can take up your queries. We can have one-to-one discussion to answer any of your queries.
Great, Sandeep.
I would
That's
request
it.
all of them to please reach out to us. We have mentioned Venus number, I have mentioned my number. So I know we have not be able to answer all of the questions. So I would request you to please reach out to us, and then we can take the discussion forward. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you,
Thank
Sakshi.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your presence and time. We'll again come back to this business opportunity session tomorrow with another opportunity. Thank you all.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Toy.